On behalf of the National Career Development Association, welcome to NCDA's webinar series. We are pleased that you have joined us. Before I introduce today's presenters, I want to share some technical information for you. During the webinar, your microphone will be muted. We encourage any questions to be typed into the chat section, which can be found on the lower section of your screen. It will look like a little conversation bubble. Please make sure you select to send your chat to all participants or all presenters so that all of our panelists can see that. Our presenters will address those questions at the end of the presentation if time allows. Individuals who have signed up for the webinar will be able to log into their account on the NCDA website to view their CEU certificates beginning early next week. Groups that are attending will need to return their sign-in sheets to me in order to receive certificates. This program is approved for 1 contact hour of continuing education. For any questions on continuing education, please contact me, Alicia Cheek, at the NCDA headquarters. Our presenters today are Rebecca Dedmond and Stephen Myers, along with a group of panelists that they will be introducing. We now present All Hands on Deck, Preparing Students for the Future of Work by Building Partnerships with All Stakeholders.
Thank you, Alicia. I'm delighted to work today with Stephen Myers, one of my graduates of the counseling program that I direct here at the George Washington University. For a long, long time, I have had a very deep passion for working across all sectors with those who are concerned about the future of our workplace, our workforce, and those who are entering it. So I'm delighted to join with Stephen today, who will tell you a bit about himself, and then we'll go straight into the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Dedmond, and thank you all for participating in today's webinar. We're really glad that you're here. As Dr. Dedmond mentioned, my name is Steve Myers. I am a current service learning resource teacher here in Fairfax County Public Schools here in Fairfax, Virginia. Here as a service learning teacher, I support service learning initiatives for the county. We're a county of about 188,000 students, so it does make for busy days supporting all students with the various service learning initiatives. But I'm really excited with this work because each day I come to work, I try to help make connections for students between service learning and work-based learning, and service learning and authentic learning as well too. I got brought into this work, as Dr. Dedmond mentioned. I'm a former student of hers, former school counselor, was a counselor at the high school level, also a counselor at the middle school level, all here in FCPS. And it was really during that time as a school counselor where I really started to gain an interest in the idea of career development. For those who don't work in the school setting, school counselors often focus their time and efforts on the 3 domains of academics, personal social, and career development. And during those years where I was a school counselor, I really kind of started focusing in on the career development side and just seeing the importance for our students and the development of the future workforce. We have a lot of great initiatives here in Virginia with things like the Academic Career Plan, which all 7th graders in the Commonwealth of Virginia begin, and it goes all the way through their 12th grade up until graduation. And while the Academic Career Plan is a great resource for students here in Virginia, through my work here with FCPS, I've begun to reflect on questions such as how can we increase authentic learning experiences to help best prepare all of our students for the future of work? And that's why Dr. Dedmond and I started collaborating on this webinar and trying to bring in an expert group of panelists from a lot of different sectors to help address these questions. So this isn't just for students who are in the K through 12 setting or career development practitioners in the K through 12 setting, but this is for all career development practitioners. And this is for all students who are lifelong learners. So if you work with students of any age or in any setting, we're glad that you're here and participating in this webinar because it truly is all hands on deck. So today, some of the webinar learning outcomes, we want to really address career development in all sectors. My past experience is primarily in the K through 12 field, which is why we've really gone out of our way to try to bring in panelists from different career development sectors. And we really focus in on this idea of not K through 12, but it's K to gray, right? Lifelong learners of all ages, and how can we support them in their career development? And one idea that Dr. Dedmond and I have talked about for a while in many of our discussions is the idea of breaking down the silos and how can we form collaborative partnerships. Oftentimes in education, we do a really good job of collaborating with other education um, stakeholders, whether it's counselors, teachers, administration, PTA, parent-teacher association. But how can we really form collaborative partnerships outside of the education field with business partnerships, with government entities, with public policy? And so that will bring us to our all-star panel. We brought in experts from the different sectors to share their thoughts. And then at the end, we're going to try to have a conclusion where we really do tie it all together, because ultimately we are all in all of this together, and how can we best support our students? So we hope that you find this webinar interesting and have some action items that you feel that you can walk away with to bring back to your own practice. To get us started, though, it's always kind of fun to start with a little video, a grounding video. And so I thought I would introduce a brief video related to career development. I call this the career crawl, and this is a video of my soon-to-be one-year-old son, Eric. Now, a little backstory before I play this brief video. It's only about 20 seconds long. But my wife and her side of the family is Korean. And on the 1-year birthday, there's a big celebration in the Korean culture. Obviously, you know, we celebrate birthdays, but in the Korean culture, the 1-year birthday is a big deal. And this celebration involves inviting family and friends over for great food, great music. It's overall really good time. I've been to a few in the past. One of the most interesting features for me, though, as a career practitioner, is the part of the celebration that I call the career crawl. I haven't heard this elsewhere. It's something I've just kind of made up when I've seen this in action, but I call it the career crawl, which is actually called the doljabi. And you see it here on the screen here. Doljabi is the Korean word for this event that we do during the 1-year celebration. And ultimately, this is when you put a bunch of different objects in front of the birthday child that signifies the different pathways that they could take. So oftentimes there might be like a toy gavel that would signify law and order. So maybe they would go into a career involving some sort of law. A toy stethoscope signifying the medical field. Some sort of ball for athlete. A brush for artist, like a paintbrush for artist, and so forth and so on. There's usually like 6, 7 different objects. Now, this video that you're about to see is not the actual dojabi for my son, Eric, but it's a practice round for him. He'll be turning 1 in a couple weeks. And as a former tennis coach and athlete, you better believe I'm pulling for him to pick up the ball. I've been trying to practice with him on weekends with a bunch of different objects and trying to get him acclimated with that bright yellow fuzzy ball. But after learning about this game and reflecting, it had me really thinking about how might we unconsciously be putting certain careers or promoting particular pathways more so than others. In this doljabi game, as you're about to see, we can only put certain amount of objects in that we're placing in front of the child. And so I thought this is a great grounding visual for us as career practitioners, and the idea of how can we increase career awareness and experience for all of our students. So let's go ahead and play the video real quick so you can see it. So here's Eric, and he's going to get going in a second. Here he comes. And we put a few different objects. So he first, as you can see, picks up the tablet. He loves our cell phones and tablet. And then when he sees that's not turning on, it looks like he goes to the box of Band-Aids. We haven't gotten the toy stethoscope yet, so that's the short video. And so you can make whatever analogy you want with it. You know, iPad and then a box of Band-Aids. It looks like, so maybe he'll have some sort of pathway in the IT, health, medical sciences field. Who knows? Made no effort for that tennis ball, so we'll keep practicing before his 1-year birthday. But again, when I've been to some of these in the past, I've just thought they're really neat experiences. It's great to learn about other cultures and just also make career connections as well too. But then taking one step back and really thinking about how in our work, how can we increase career opportunities for all students. In this activity, the doljabi, as you can see, I got a few items there. But as career practitioners, how can we increase ultimately all the opportunities that we can provide for our students? So I'll pass it back along to Dr. Dedmond.
Great. Am I on?
You are.
Oh, good. Well, what a wonderful way to watch little Eric crawl toward those items and select something. And I wish I'd be around when he actually is about 40 years old to see what he's doing. I just wonder, I bet the rest of us are sitting there saying, what did we crawl to? What caught our attention? Today, the theme of this webinar is similar to that of a conference I recently attended where participants from 32 countries gathered to address the topic, leading career development into an uncertain future. I wish that we all could help our citizens and help our people and our constituents crawl toward an item, and it would be that simple. The buzzwords that went around at that conference were things like what's facing our workers today, automation, the gig economy, globalization, environmental change, layoffs, cutbacks. Not very motivating, is it? So I returned to the US and I thought, I am motivated now to focus more on programs that I've known through the years and the people I know within our own country who are implementing programs and initiatives that work. So given the complexity of today's workplace, we know that it takes a myriad of roles, programs, and tools to plan for the life, the education, and the work that our citizens hope for, even as they face economic, social, and technological changes. How fortunate we are to have this group of panelists. Stephen, I don't think we called anyone who said no. And so we got our first choices, and we know that there are others out there, but this group of panelists will give us a great idea, some vision and some hope as we plan with our students and with our constituents for the future. Each has selected highlights of their work that are meant to inspire and motivate webinar participants. We know that we can't give them but a few minutes on here, but we hope that you will find some takeaways that you can immediately implement in your work settings or that will inspire you to create more. We're going to hear from Monica Lozano Caldera, who is here in Northern Virginia. And she's going to share information on getting parents to the table and engaging them in career development of their child or their children K through 12. After that, we'll hear from Mary Ellen Earnhardt, who is in Montana, and she's going to highlight programs that she has created and led and rolled up her sleeves and participated in that help youth find deeper meaning in their studies at school. They actually say, oh, now I know why I'm learning this. And then there's Andrew Noblick, a counselor who was in the schools, who moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and he's been making a great impact, working in the mayor's office and setting an example of how the counselors work to inform local government can be so successful, engage so many youth. Letitia McCain, Dr. Letitia McCain has come to Virginia also. I believe she told me from Alabama. She left higher education and she's working in an incredible apprenticeship program that we have here at the Newport News Shipyard in Virginia. What a viable option for our youth from all over the country, but for our youth too. And then we're so fortunate to have Jason Ortega, who will talk about public policy and the need for everyone to become involved as we strive to implement change. So I'm going to ask our friend here, Monica, will you start for us and give us some ideas of how we can get parents to the table?
Thank you, Dr. Dedmond. Good afternoon, everyone. I will share our experience in Arlington Public Schools with the family and community engagement. The Arlington Career Center employs a multifaceted approach to helping students with their career development. Our plan centers around family engagement. Family engagement for us is a very essential part of our process in career development. Support definitely both our students, but also our community. Teachers, staff, and community leaders often ask how to encourage parents and guardians to be more active in their children's career development. Our strategy is to intentionally provide opportunities for families to engage in their child education and success, and by design, involve teachers, staff, and community leaders in the process. We are implementing actions using the dual capacity framework that you see in the slide for family and school partnerships, MAP and partner. This framework has several elements. Let's talk about the elements right now. The first one is developing the capacity of school staff to partner effectively with families. For example, we provide family and community engagement training for staff. This training is woven into the overall professional development framework. We offer a parent engagement series also because we need to develop the capacity of the families to engage in different and diverse roles. This training is also attached to the parent leader facilitator training to provide parents with the skills to lead meetings and group activities. We also support the development of parent affinity group and social networks in the schools. For example, many parents use now WhatsApp, the app, to communicate in groups and share information with other parents. Another element is providing effective guidance in how to plan successful family engagement events, programs, and initiatives by using the organizational and process conditions from the framework. The process conditions in particular ensure that every initiative is relational, linked to learning, asset-based, culturally responsive, collaborative, and interactive. We have also developed tools that schools can use to improve and track their progress. For example, we create a checklist. In fact, this is available online for if anyone is interested, for a school to evaluate their approach to family engagement. And lastly, all our activities concentrate on the strategies that can have the most impact. I work at the Arlington Career Center and we host 5 different high school programs, including the Teen Parenting Program, Academic Academy, Program for Employment Preparedness, English Learners Institute, and the Arlington Tech. We educate, advocate, and celebrate with families. Before we use the framework that I am mentioning in the first slide, families were not seen as partners in education. They were receptors of information and instruction that we were given as a teacher. Now, they are seen as equal partners with voices and skills who support the children in their career development. Based on this framework that I mentioned before, here are the few examples of the high-impact strategies and family engagement events, programs, and initiatives we facilitate at the Arlington Career Center. Some events are offered multiple times during the year. For example, each program has a specific group meeting with parents. These group meetings are scheduled in convenient times for the parents, and every one of them send a representative each month to meet with our principal advisory committee that the principal leads at the school. We also engage to sending weekly emails, updates, and school talks, which are phone calls made to families regarding school programs or events. These calls can be bilingual depending on the family needs. Another opportunity is through our Café con Leche. The Café con Leche is a monthly meeting for our English learners, students' families. An example of the Café con Leche topic, parents how to complete the request form for the students, especially the classes that they are interested. But also we practice how parents can help their child choosing a career or technical education class based on their interests or sometimes the skill that they already bring to the table. One other effort is the mock interview day. Each program organizes and brings community members to interview our students in preparation for a job and post-secondary education. Lastly, we host parent information nights. This is a series of nights where parents get information on how to support their child academically, how to develop emotional intelligence, or how to encourage their child pathway to success after high school. Another important concept that we manage during these meetings is the self-determination, which is known to be a key to post-secondary accomplishments. We also offer, and it's the second part of the slide here, some events once a year. For example, and I mentioned it before, the Parent Leader Facilitator Training, where parents gain new knowledge, skills, tools, and confidence to design and facilitate meetings that can help advance efforts to improve outcomes for children and families. We also offer Nova Nights. Students and families learn all about Northern Virginia Community College, that is our local community college, and they learn from academics to accommodations to financial help to sports, everything about our community college. We also offer Transition Fair, an event where community members and nonprofit organizations share information regarding services and resources available for families. Services range from transportation to housing to educational and scholarship opportunities. Another event is Nova Accommodation Night. This is specifically for families who have children that receive special education services. Students and families learn how to request accommodations and services when attending community college, trade schools, or universities. And this is important because sometimes when they are in the school, the high schools, we provide a lot of support for them, but they have to be more independent and request their own services when they transition to higher education. Also, we have the Career Technical and Education Night. Students in career and technical education classes showcase school projects to celebrate their success. We have employers and community partners also participating, and that way they encourage career placement and opportunities for the students. One other example is Participa en mi Educación. This is a class, and we already did it in Spanish, Mongolian, and English, speaking parents, to learn how to navigate the school system in the United States and how to support their children and their success after high school. In conclusion, we really embrace family engagement as an asset, and we believe it's the foundation of a long-term achievement. Thank you for your time and your investment in career development for the students, especially for the support that we are giving to our parents and your contribution to improve our global community.
Thank you, Monica, for that. A lot of great information on increasing family engagement and the connection to career development. Monica will be staying with us. Hopefully there's time at the end of this webinar where we might try to do a lightning round discussion with all of our panelists. So thank you for that, and we look forward to talking with you again momentarily. And now we will maneuver to Mary Ellen Earnhardt, who will be talking with us about after-school programming and its connections to career development. Mary Ellen, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I got my AmeriCorps here trying to remind me to unmute the mic. So I would like to talk to you about after-school programming. I also want to point out that after-school programs come in many faces. You have 4-H, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, athletics, schools, school clubs like FFA, TSA, art club, band, etc. And an organization that has much information on after-school programs is the After School Alliance. One of the biggest programs in every state is the 21st Century Community Learning Center. For example, in Montana, we are given almost $6 million to give out to schools to run after-school programs. Now, many of these programs have, especially the 21st century, they are mandated to do career development. But many programs like the Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCA, they also have programs that are career development. So if you're working with any of these, I would strongly recommend that you try to review what sort of programs that they have. They're kind of script programs that they are running, which would help you get more information on how to get involved. Now, after school programs, 21st century, is what I'm going to be talking about here. This picture right here is, and I'm not going to show the movie because we do not have enough time, but the web page for the movie, the YouTube is on there. This is a scenario where students are building a garden. And some of the things that the students say that they like about this is that you're doing the same thing you're doing in school, just in a different way. You actually get to physically touch what you are learning about. And they feel like the difference that it makes in schools and communities, because communities need to be involved in these programs. And it also gives the child a voice. It makes them feel good about themselves, and it also shows them what possibilities are out there for the students. So in this one, the students here build a community garden. We had an F1 in schools, a Formula One project, and we also had maps where the students learned to make movies, and then they produced movies for the governor. They produced movies for Native Americans. They've been in film festivals, and this is a skill that they need for life, and also is a good relevance, hands-on learning. And I think every career needs to learn how to use media. As, for example, we're using this webinar. So if we could go to the next slide. Can we click to the next slide? All right, what I'm going to show you here is a Native American school in rural Montana. They ran what we called the Formula One race car program, where they actually built a miniature F1 car. And what they had to do is they had to learn CAD. They also had to have a business partner associated with them. They had to set up a business plan. They had to have a marketer, a person to do graphic design. And then they had to have a team leader. So everything was real life experience here. Now in this rural area, they don't even have a movie theater. So you can imagine what there is for the students to do. This is the first time in Montana that they had a powwow for academics. These students actually took state, and they were the first Native American to ever attend nationals and worlds. When they attended worlds, they won the judges award for students who had to overcome obstacles, and the one that the judges were most impressed with. So look at all the career development that these students learned in this after-school program. What I like about this is that learning is designed like real-world applications. They understand why employable skills are needed. It teaches them to solve problems in their communities. It helps them share their thoughts and emotions with the rest of the world. Students get a real-world application in a professional way. It includes the school, community, parents in helping them develop the students holistically. It unleashes their talents. It gives them hope. If we could raise healthy children and make them feel good about themselves and make them realize that they matter, we would be really building a wonderful workforce. And I take a look at people like Hoyt, who expressed how important real life learning was, but also expressed the importance of getting teachers involved in career development. Career development is not just a school counselor's job. It is the whole community. It is the teachers. And then we have here from Cal Crow, career development in the schools. And his vision is, he asked the students, what am I learning? Why is it important? How am I going to apply what I learn? An after-school program, as I mentioned before, is sort of like a role model for everyday teachers, because this type of learning, although it's unstructured, like some people say, why can't we also do this in a school? I have half a minute left. I like to look at career development like a high school basketball coach trying to develop his basketball team. What he will do is he will start with the younger students, and he will start with Little League basketball, and then he will build his program up in each grade, giving them different skills. And I believe that after school programs could start when the children are young, and then you give them skills, learning about their communities, then getting out into their communities, and then having the communities come and be a part of them. So I am going to show you on the slide right there on the bottom, the U.S. Department of Education has a toolkit for career development for after school. I also like to use it. I'm currently now a career lab supervisor for the Department of Labor. I also like to use this information because it has parental information, it has community information, and it has working with schools. If you need any other information, you'll get my contact information after this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. And yes, please, for our participants, do be sure to try to check out these links that Mary Ellen has shared, especially that video that was on the other slide. It's posted on YouTube. It's a short 6-7 minute video, and it really showcases a lot of the great after school programming that's connected to career development. So great work there. Now we're going to turn our attention to Andrew Noblick, who will be talking with us about the government workforce development programs. Andrew, you have the floor.
Thanks, Steve. Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Noblick. I'm the program manager for the City of Charlotte's Mayor's Youth Employment Program, which at its core is a 6-week internship program for high school-aged youth in the City of Charlotte. But more broadly than that, we provide a variety of ancillary career exploration opportunities for high school-aged youth over the course of the academic year. I'm excited to report that the program has just completed its 33rd year of operation, and we're entering into our 34th. Over the course of this past year, over 5,700 Charlotte youth participated in work-based learning opportunities managed by the City of Charlotte's Youth Programs Division. And as we move forward, Steve, I think we can go ahead and move on to the next slide here. I'll share that some of the results from our program as well. But I'm sorry, we can, the mission of our program is to equip students with the opportunity to equitably access career development opportunities, to explore the world of work, increase their social capital, enhance their economic mobility. Some of you may be familiar with the work of Harvard University professor Raj Chetty. He led a research study in 2014, the equality of opportunity, and reported out, the Atlantic magazine picked up actually the study and reported out on some of the results for that study. In the study, it indicated and analyzed the 50 largest metropolitan areas in the United States and looked at the economic mobility potential for those cities and for residents within those cities. And what that study found was that of those 50 largest metropolitan areas, Charlotte ranked last. It ranked 50 out of 50 for economic mobility potential for folks who were in the lower lowest 20% of income earners in the city. And so the city took that as an opportunity to really renew the commitment and continue to reinvigorate this program and pour more resources into it as well as the community. So that is a mission that we take very seriously, and I take seriously as a professional who is coming out of the counseling background, a former career counselor as well as a school counselor, but very fortunate to be involved with this program. And so you can see our vision there as well. But in total, in this past year, I'm excited to report that our participants, of which we had 356 students that we placed in a 6-week summer internship that was paid, they ended up earning over $500,000 as a cohort and worked more than 50,000 hours across multiple industries in multiple sectors. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on that in one moment. So if we go on to the next slide here, Steve, I'll talk. So essentially with our program, there are 2 paid outcomes for our participants. Ideally, we would like to place students, if possible, into an internship. And we really designate that as the opportunity to connect the work that the student will be doing within the work environment in conjunction with what they're learning in the academic environment. So that's an opportunity to really have the students applying their knowledge and know-how that they can take out of the classroom and apply that in the practical use in that work environment. In some cases, we're unable to identify a specific placement for students that aligns with their specific career interests. A job may be an opportunity for a younger student with whom we would work, which will work with, this program will work with students as early as 16 years of age, all the way up through graduation. Once they graduate from high school, they're no longer eligible for the program. So we'll see 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, and in some instances, if a student might have been academically delayed, maybe 20. But in any case, for some of those younger students who may still be developing, they may not have any work experience, and we may not be able to necessarily tie their academic training or experience to a specific placement. We would look to maybe help them develop and hone in on some of those transferable skills through a job placement. So in 2018, if we'll go to the next slide here, essentially our program is best conceptualized if you think about a strategic enrollment management process, so i.e. a college admissions process. We're simultaneously managing, my team is simultaneously managing two life cycles. We're managing a student life cycle where we work with and prepare students for this experience, but we're also working with program partners in the community. That would be our schools, that would be our private sector and public sector and nonprofit partners who agree to host and provide these work-based learning opportunities for our youth. So we begin this process in the fall with students. We go into all 30 of our Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, public high schools, and just for reference, the last I checked, I believe the school system is the 17th largest in the United States. It's pretty comparable in size to Fairfax County. We have just about 150,000 students enrolled in the schools and 30 high schools. So in the academic year 2018-2019, we trained just shy of 1,100 students in the fall. We provided a free in-school day-long job and career readiness training that focuses on financial literacy, resume development, job and interview preparation, customer service, and professionalism in the workplace and in the digital space as well. So we want to really gear these students up and help them start thinking about what it is like and could be like to enter into the workforce. So that opportunity serves as a prerequisite for our students to apply to the program, and that's the only factor that we would consider for a student to move in and apply for the program. So as long as a student participates in that training, they'll be eligible to apply for the program. In order to ensure equity for students in Charlotte who may not be enrolled in a public school, we do provide 4 community-based trainings as well on Saturdays, and we make those available to all youth residents of Charlotte. So that would capture our students who are either disconnected youth, they may be enrolled in a private or public or charter school, a charter school. As I mentioned there, we had just shy of 1,100 train, and then we had 535 students apply, 435 completed all of the elements that we require, which included a background and check and drug screening, and then we offered placement to 435 students. We had 385 of those students accept their placement and 356 who actually started on June 17th in their 6-week internship. And so the result of that, again, we had over 50,000 hours worked by that cohort and just over $540,000 earned. So a big economic impact, upward mobility, and social capital opportunity for our youth. And Steve, we want to go on to the next slide here. As we move into this next academic year, our goal was to have 1,500 eligible applicants. We ended up training 1,281 students and opened the application process up to our alumni. That put us up to about 1,550 eligible applicants. Presently, we've received about 604 applications. So our target for end of this year is to have an impact of 500 paid work-based experiences. I think we're on track to be close to that right now at this point. And we're really working with our in-school, and I think one of the main things I wanted to address with this presentation is how can we collaborate as a governmental workforce program with partners across all industries, but we work very, very closely with our school system. We have school-level liaisons at every single school. I think school counselors are a very natural fit for that partnership, but specifically in North Carolina has a career development coordinator, which in many other school systems might be called by a different name, a career specialist, someone who focuses specifically on the career development of the students. And so we work very closely with those points of contact to communicate and make available these opportunities to youth. So it's a great way for us to have an impact and really work to change the narrative and to really change the data showing that upward economic mobility is a real opportunity or need for our community here. And Steve, if you want to go to the next slide there.
And we'll have about 1 or 2 more minutes here. Just
okay. Yeah, thanks for the time check. Appreciate it. And so, in summary, I think beyond the school systems and private sector, public sector partnerships, we're really working to establish ourselves as an evidence-based program. I think you'll see other youth programs in municipalities across the United States. For those of you in the audience, they're an outstanding resource for youth with whom you may work. I think it's a great way for community members to engage in workforce development of our youth and really provide some social capital for folks who may not otherwise have access to professionals in specific industries. And it's a great exploration opportunity for students. I personally have had an intern for the past 2 years that I've been in the program, and they have done phenomenal work. We've challenged them to grow, and I think that many of them have either had the opportunity to explore something they were unfamiliar with, or really say to themselves, yes, this is the course and career pursuit that I'm interested in, and it really informs their, not only their career decision, but also their educational pursuits at the post-secondary level as well. So in order to ensure that the program's evidence-based, we've partnered with a local university as well to conduct career self-efficacy survey research with our participants, and we found that there is statistical significance in that research, and it found that the career self-efficacy was positively increased from a before, during, and after the experience of being involved with this program. So I am biased, but I'm a big proponent, and I know that many of the listeners, I think, are in the DC metro area or DMV area. DC has a really strong program. So again, I would just urge everyone to explore what opportunities exist, and there are many national associations that are supporting this kind of work, so can be highly impactful, and go out and let's see how we can continue to serve our youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. A lot of great information there as well, and you'll be sticking around as well too when we're done going visiting with all of our panelists. We'll try to do a lightning round and get your input on some questions as well too. So thank you for all that good information. Now let's go ahead and turn our attention to Dr. Letitia McCain, who will be talking with us about the importance of business and industry partnerships, in particular Newport News Shipbuilding. So Letitia, you have the floor. Can you hear us, Letitia? Give a second here. Letitia is on. She's will be talking with us momentarily about the really interesting partnership with Newport News Shipbuilding and their work that they're doing with students in Newport News and beyond as well too. So Letitia, when you're ready.
Looks like Letitia not muted, so I'm not sure what happened there.
Okay. Letitia, if you're still on and you're not muted, we can always come back. Give a few more seconds here in case maybe you stepped away for a second, but this is really good information. I'm really excited to have Dr. Letitia McCain with us as well too. Talk about this interesting partnership with business and industry. Letitia, if you're not there, Jason, not to move you up, but we can always come back to Letitia's section. So Jason, if you are with us and if you're okay, do you mind going now and discussing public policy? And we can always jump back to Letitia's section. So Jason will be discussing public policy with us and how it relates to career development. So sorry to have you jump in earlier, Jason, than maybe you were ready for it, but if you're ready, you have the floor.
I'm ready. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Dr. Dedmond, for asking me to be a part of this panel. So I am Jason Ortega. I'm Vice President over at Lobby It. It is a boutique government relations shop here in Washington, D.C. And we've had a multi-year relationship with NCDA. I came on board a couple of years ago. And what we try to do here is to really provide access to organizations who may not traditionally be able to engage with Congress and the agencies due to the monetary restrictions of the traditional shops here in DC who charge exorbitant rates more often than not. So what we try to do is to provide organizations with the ability to build relationships with key offices on the Hill and to provide valuable feedback. As you all know, much of what happens throughout the states is funded or aided through federal dollars. So it is critical if you want to have increased impact, especially in this area. Anything that touches education, the federal dollars are so critical. So we really try to ensure that NCDA's perspective is at the table when decisions are being made. A couple of the offices that we've been able to really work with closely are those of Congressman Langevin and Congressman Thompson. Both of them on the Hill. Langevin is a Democrat and Thompson's a Republican. And the great thing about this duo is that they work in a bipartisan manner. Almost every bill that they introduce is bipartisan, and often, especially if it's in this area, they will co-sponsor each other's bills. What we try to do with them is to build that relationship so that for legislation that they're introducing, when they're having these conversations, they understand the value of career development and particularly the training that organizations like NCDA can provide to individuals who are involved in that work throughout the country. And I'll go into that a little bit later and some of the successes that we've had. But additional relationships that we also work on building are with the agencies, and key among those is the Department of Labor. So we've been able to successfully build a relationship that has led to a webinar series that you may have attended earlier this year and conference attendance, which we're hoping for this year. And unfortunately, due to some scheduling issues, it fell through last year, but that relationship is critical because so much of what labor does flies under the radar, and then they often are siloed off and not aware of what's happening throughout the country. And so we want to provide that kind of two-way conversation. And then more broadly, we build relationships with other organizations that are working here in DC, including the American Counseling Association, which I meet with every month to discuss kind of what issues we're both working on and how we can help each other out, as well as the Coalition for Career Development, which you all may have seen some materials of. They just had their summit. And shifting to some of the successes that we've had, the big and most recent one is the Counseling for Career Choice Act. This is a bill that Congressman Langevin and Thompson introduced, and we were able to successfully advocate for changes in the language to more closely focus on career counseling. And what the bill does is it provides federal funding to provide for career counseling training for counselors in schools who want to be involved in this area, or for schools who are trying to set up, like some states have, dedicated individuals. And these dollars provide for training, which organizations like NCDA can provide, and then they bring stakeholders to the table so that counselors are aware of the business partnership side of things, and what the needs are within industry, and really have a clear picture of what's happening throughout the workforce, so that they can provide the best and most relevant information. And then I'll just speak really quickly towards just a bit of a broader focus on what's happening in Congress. So within Congress and the space of education, there's a few areas where the biggest focus of the conversation has been. One is the future of work, which has had a couple of hearings dedicated to it here in the House in the last couple of months. The other is apprenticeships, which has been a major focus of the Trump administration, with a number of initiatives, as well as the Democrats in the House. And then the other is college affordability, which they were able to address with a kind of mini higher education reauthorization bill that dealt with some funding and dealt with FAFSA. To dig into the apprenticeship side of things, apprenticeships, there are kind of two competing views, but both sides agree that we need more opportunities. And unfortunately, what ends up happening too often is that folks aren't aware of what is available, what the benefits of entering into it are. And building that awareness, particularly among the individuals that are providing the counseling, and then parents and teachers, is critical. And what we're trying to do is to ensure that as these conversations occur, that they recognize that funding the work that you all are doing is important if they want to see apprenticeships increase. And so to that end, I work closely with the Legislative Committee of NCDA, and we will be providing feedback on draft legislation that is currently working its way through the House. And that's once again part of my work to try to keep us at the table, so that NCDA's perspective is taken into account. And all of this goes to just say that when it comes to like college affordability, apprenticeships, and the future of work, career advising, career development, all of that I'm seeing increased conversations about. And increasingly when I go into offices and I talk about who we are and what our priorities are, the light switch is kind of going on, and people are recognizing that you can't really tackle any of these broader issues if you don't take into account the career development perspective. And then if we just go to the next slide, I'll briefly just highlight a couple of opportunities. You know, I do what I can, but ultimately members of Congress are going to vote when they hear back from constituents. So if you or people that you know care about any of these specific issues, I encourage you to reach out to your members of Congress, particularly on the Career Choice Act. That's Bill H.R. 5092. Apologies, I didn't put it on the slide, but that's House Bill 5092, 5092. Call your Congress number, or you can look it up and read more about it if you go to congress.gov. There's a number of organizations. NCDA has information available. If you go to NCDA's website, there's an advocacy tab. There you'll see a lot of information about what I'm doing. I have monthly reports that go up there, and you'll see individuals that you can contact for more information if you want to get involved. But calling your Congress member and asking them to support this, you'll be surprised at how often just a handful of phone calls can really lead to a member making a different decision. I mentioned the apprenticeship legislation. If you're a member of NCDA and you want to provide feedback in the critical drafting phase before the bill is introduced, and really all it takes is a staff member to agree with us for the language to change, that is, we're very happy to be a part of that discussion, and the Legislative Committee will be kind of leading that, that engagement with Congress. And similarly with the WIOA, if many of you work in the space and are familiar with WIOA reauthorization, that's something that Congress will be taking action on here within probably about 5 to 6 months. And so that's going to be kind of our focus as we kind of get close to the summer. And there again, if you join the Legislative Committee, that's another opportunity to kind of get involved. and then ATA reauthorization a little bit further down the line, but I encourage everyone to kind of keep an eye out. When we get there, we'll be sending out call to actions as well. So hopefully I didn't go too far over my time, but
it was perfect. Thank you, Jason. And I mean, this is all very good information. And I think for a lot of career practitioners, it's an area that some of us, myself included, are not as familiar with. So it's always good to hear the work that's being done and the work that you do representing us in NCDA. So thank you for sharing that information. And you'll be staying on for us because we're going to try to do a quick lightning round in a couple minutes. But I did want to back up briefly to see if Dr. Letitia McCain is still with us, because I really would like to have her share all the great work that's being done with, speaking of apprenticeships and other programming with the Newport News Shipbuilding. So Dr. Letitia McCain, are you with us? Dr. Letitia McCain, can you hear us? And if you're still with us? Okay. Not sure what's happening. There might be some technical difficulties going on, but I wanted to give her the opportunity to share about all the good work that's happening with Newport News Shipbuilding as well, because I think it's really important for us to have everyone at the table, and that includes very importantly, business and industry partnerships, especially when we start thinking along the lines of work-based learning and authentic learning experiences, and how can we increase those for our students. So Dr. McCain, are you with us?
Michael, can you hear me?
Yes, this is Stephen. Yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
Hi, this is Letitia. I'm sorry. You know, we have all these firewalls here in the shipyard, so evidently I couldn't speak through my computer, so I had to call in.
Not a problem, but I'm so glad you're with us, because I wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to share with our listeners today all the great work that's being done down in Newport News, Virginia. So you have the floor. We have the first slide on. Would you like me to go to the second slide with all your content and information?
Absolutely. So we are a 133-year-old company and the largest industrial employer in the state of Virginia. We have over 24,000 employees. And of course, being the largest employer, we partner with all key stakeholders. And we hired actually 3,400 people last year. And in 2020, we're projected to hire 2,500 more people. And so when we talk about our pre-K to 12th grade pipeline, we deal mostly with STEAM and STEM. We have faculty, teachers that come to the shipyard for their internships. Those internships are about 2 weeks in nature. Last year, we saw over 20,000 young people in the shipyard, expose them to manufacturing and shipbuilding across the Commonwealth. We started a pre-apprenticeship program. That pre-apprenticeship program, we have 10 students from 12 different high schools. Well, we have 10 students, they're 12th graders from 8 different high schools. Those students come to our apprentice school where we have 19 trades and 8 optional programs. We expose our high school students to the different career paths and things that are available here in the shipyard. And once they graduate high school, they have a pipeline straight into our apprenticeship program. Our apprenticeship program, we have over 800 students. Those students make $18 an hour when they come into the apprentice school. They are full-time employees of the shipyard, so those students actually get all medical benefits as well as exposure to higher education. Some of our students go on to earn their associate's and bachelor's degrees, and we actually pay for those associate and bachelor's degrees. Many of our students, we retained over 80% of our students after they complete a 4-year internship. And many of them actually earn about $61,000 after they finish their apprenticeship. We also have internships and co-op programs here at Newport News Shipbuilding. In 2019, we had 235 college interns representing 71 colleges and universities from all over the country. About 900 college students participated in internships and co-op experiences since 2016, and our primary focus is engineering and IT. And as a personal story, my daughter actually interned last summer. She's a senior at Alabama State University. And once she graduates, she's already signed her contract to be a full-time employee in May when she walks across the stage. She already has a job waiting on her as well as a signing bonus. We also work with veterans and military spouses. We partner with about 4 or 5 agencies that help us to get military and their spouses into the shipyard. Newport Shipbuilding, we serve about 2,600. We've hired about 2,600. We have about 2,600 veterans that are employed with our company. We also do a pre-hire program. We partner with local community colleges and the Virginia Ship Repair Association, and we actually bring individuals into the community colleges, get them some type of certification, which is the first step of employment into some of our trades, 8 trades within the shipyard. After about 4 or 5 weeks of training, they become full-time employees of Newport News Shipbuilding. We believe in lifelong learning here at Newport News Shipbuilding. We spend over $100 million a year on training. So a lot of times when individuals come in, we continue to train them and give them the exposure they need to be able to advance in leadership roles within the company. So for Newport News Shipbuilding, it's all about partnerships and relationships. And those relationships range from parents, grandparents, K-12, colleges and universities, state and regional and national stakeholders. And so for us, it's about developing the skill sets that individuals need to be productive as well as great employees of our company. Thank you.
Thank you, Letitia. That great information, and thank you for showcasing all the good work that's happening down there in Newport News Shipbuilding. So thank you for that. Glad we were able to have you on. We're just over 4 o'clock, so we won't be able to do too long of a discussion, but if we can, I'd like to just ask one question with our 5 panelists. We'll do a real quick lightning round. So for our listeners, this will be quick, and then we're going to bring it all together in a conclusion. But since I have all 5 panelists still on, and as a reminder, we have Monica Lozano Caldera, Mary Ellen Earnhardt, Andrew Noblick, Letitia McCain, and Jason Ortega. I'd like to ask just one question, 30-second to 1-minute response each. And the question let's go with, what is one action step you would recommend to someone in the career field who wishes to get more involved outside of their own setting? So we'll start with Monica first. Monica, if you want to try to address that in 30 seconds to a minute. I know it's a tall task, but I'd love to get everyone's perspective on one action step that you would recommend to someone. So Monica. Monica, are you still with us?
Sorry, I didn't unmute.
It's okay.
I would say one of the things that we see as an asset when we work with parents, they help us to establish places where the students can volunteer in the community, or organizations or local business that they can expand their career field or explore new career fields. Then we really have a strong partnership with community members and with parents that help us to place the students in this kind of volunteering opportunities.
Thank you, Monica. Great response. Mary Ellen, I'd love to know your feedback on that question as well. Mary Ellen Earnhardt from After School Programming.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so my recommendation is that you're, and I'm talking about working with schools. If you're working with the schools or a system, you need to understand what they are doing for career development, and then take a look at the expertise that you have to offer, and then visit with them and offer your expertise. But really understand where they're coming from and what they need. And because so many schools have so much going on, but if they understand that you're there not to add something, but you're there to assist them in what their goals and objectives are, that would be my suggestion. Learn what they're doing and then see where you fit in, like a puzzle piece.
Thank you for that, Mary Ellen. Appreciate that feedback. Andrew Noblick, what would be your response to that question?
I think sometimes we end up working in silos, and so personally, I have found a lot of opportunity to step outside of my former capacities as a school counselor, as a career development coordinator, and just explore the work of others and learn best practices by being involved in professional organizations. I think, everyone here today is here in the NCDA webinar. I think we're really fortunate to have some of these satellite mini conferences now. I plan to attend the one in Charlotte next week. So I think, those are great ways to network, great ways to hear about current trends and best practices. In addition to that, I would say if you really want to step outside of the box and you kind of live in the maybe academic setting, maybe get involved in your local chamber of commerce. I think that's a good way to really see what's going on in industry and really hone in on what's taking place and learn about what needs exist in industries and in sectors, and we can really better equip our students that way to collaborate with industry partners as well.
Thank you for that. And biggest takeaway for our listeners, if you want to meet Andrew will be at the NCDA mini conference next week. I believe it's February 7th in Charlotte. So introduce yourself to him and ask any questions that might have come up during this webinar. So thank you for that, Andrew. Letitia, if you're still with us, how would you respond? Letitia McCain, if you're still with us, what would be one action step you would recommend to someone in the career field who wishes to get more involved outside of their own current work setting? Letitia, are you still there?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. How would you respond to that question?
I think we need to integrate more technology. I think a lot of times funding is an issue to give people a lot of exposure, but the technology, if we can actually do more integration of technology and expose people to more webinars and seminars, I think that would be a great way of doing that.
Thank you for that. Great feedback as well. And Jason, how would you respond? What is one action step you would recommend to someone in the career field who wishes to get more involved outside of their own current work setting?
Yeah, well, mine is pretty obvious for me. It is to get involved when it comes to public policy. I know when you watch the news, you keep an eye out on politics and stuff. It can get very depressing. But at the end of the day, things are happening. Congress is continuing to work. Hundreds of bills get passed every year. But, contrary to what many people think, if your interest, if your issue doesn't go necessarily the way you want in a bill, it's not necessarily because Congress purposely did that. It could just be that they didn't have the necessary data. There's so much information out there. They have no way of going out and getting it because they don't have limitless funds to do all that research. They depend on us to bring them the information, to let them know which way they should go, what language should be in the bill, and for each one of us, it is important to participate if we have the ability. So join NCDA's legislative committee, send a letter to your Congress member, give them a call. All those little efforts can accumulate to a big impact.
Thank you, Jason. And I have so many other questions that I would love to ask our panel, our all-star panel. There's been so much good content. But I know we're way over our time. There's so much information. We could have almost a second webinar, I feel like, with this great group. So thank you all for your feedback and showcasing all the great work that you're doing in the career development field. So Dr. Dedmond, now you're going to help us tie it all together and kind of bring this into a conclusion. So Dr. D.
Oh, thank you, Stephen, and thank you, panelists. I sat here and wrote so many key words that I took away from the panelists. So many things that we can go do. I loved your question to them. What's the first step? And I had planned to ask, how can we address questions and concerns and lend support and guidance, share information and support for people who are exploring and planning careers to achieve the kind of life and education and work they hope for. But I think we had that answered in many ways today. So I implore those who are listening to please think about how to replicate, to innovate, to collaborate. And of course, you're doing wonderful things out there in the field, and we want you to and hope that we validated your own contributions and successes, and we hope that you will take the information and share it with us. I totally agree. I think this could be an entire series that brings in many other players. We know these aren't the only ones. Again, I think Monica said we wanted to educate, advocate, and celebrate. And Mary Ellen said we're going to apply learning through technology. And Jason, yes, absolutely, through the our advocating. So I thank you so much, and I appreciate you being with us today. We ran a little over time, but I think it was valuable. And please contact us.
Yes, thank you again to our all-star panel. You all were great. For our listeners, please feel free to reach out to any of us if we can be assistance with any future work in career development. We're all in this together. We're trying to break down those silos. So please feel free to reach out to Dr. Dedmond, myself, any of the panelists. If you're trying to get in contact with any of the panelists, we can help connect you with them as well too. So thank you for attending. Thank you, Dr. Dedmond, and we'll turn it back over to Alicia.
Thank you, Stephen and Dr. Dedmond, for your work on this webinar. And again, thank you to all of our panelists as well. And to our attendees, you will receive an email, follow-up email from me within the next couple of days that will include the recording link to this webinar, as well as the PowerPoint slides from Stephen and Rebecca. So thank you guys again for your dedication to NCDA and your work today.
Thank you.